Hello, crypto people, and we have brilliant news today. It seems that Craig Wright and maybe his BSV scam Bitcoin fork is going to finally be annihilated. I don't know about BSV, but at least Craig Wright is being eviscerated in court because he had to admit that he did indeed forge a lot of documents in the past, which he provided to the court as evidence, and he's blaming other people. But you know what? That dude should actually just be in jail because forging fake documents and submitting them to the court, I'm pretty sure is a crime, even in the United Kingdom, because they are more enlightened than that. Let's actually look at what I'm talking about right now. We all know that the BSV stuff started today, or like a few days ago. Actually, it started like a couple of days ago. Today is day 4, but reflections on day 4 of Copa versus Wright, the identity issue. The blame game shifted from Citrix Metaframe to Ira Kleiman and Atalasan today. We learned that Calvin is supposedly not funding the case. He only provided a loan. Unfortunately, Calvin has no way to get the money back because Craig's going to lose the case. We saw a complete 180 from Wright. Earlier cases are no longer about him being Satoshi, which is complete nonsense because that was his whole point. And a ton of real bombshell evidence was always forged. So the critical documents that he wanted to prove where he was Satoshi were forged documents, fake just like him. I learned a lot of legalese in these proceedings, and let me tell you that what is going on here is called murder. That's right, Craig Wright legally is being eviscerated in court. Copa keeps forcing Wright into absurd excuses that no thinking person could possibly accept, least of all the judge. Yes, the judge is not that dumb, and he is not going to accept Craig Wright's excuses. Today's Meller moment for me was when he asked Wright why the screenshot from the speed test would have Craig's name on it if it wasn't his. And of course, that's because it was forged, it was doctored, and Craig Wright should actually be in jail. And of course, Kevin Iyer is even madder at Copa, and he said, F-U-C-K Copa, because he knows that Copa is destroying Craig Wright in court, and Craig Wright has no chance of winning. He loaned CSW a lot of money, and guess what, bruh? He ain't getting it back. Because Craig Wright's losing, and he's not going to have any repercussions for it. Superb summary. I understand something, so Calvin is angry at Copa exposed the fraud. So essentially, Craig Wright's going to have to get cold turkey. Craig Wright has absolutely no evidence at all that can't be refuted, that he's actually Satoshi Nakamoto. All the evidence that he presented before are frauds, and they caught him lying to the court and forging evidence. And the judge is none too pleased with that. So yes, Craig Wright is done at this point. Absolutely done. So further complicating the position, Wright could not affirm the authenticity of documents related to the so-called Tulip Trust. So even this big Tulip Trust with all the money in it, those documents could have actually been fake too. The entire lawsuit brought up by Craig Wright as Satoshi Nakamoto is a complete farce. And the farce is coming from Craig Wright's side because he cannot prove anything. Forged documents, forged evidence, everything on CSW's part has been forged, including BSV itself, which is a forged version of Bitcoin. So the thing is, like, yesterday he actually had a surprisingly positive day for trial, at least according to Craig Wright standards, and he caused some concern for Copa when he comprehensively explained Bitcoin's network theory and presented a 2008 document citing Bitcoin Cash. Of course, that was probably fake as well. Of course, BCH wasn't launched until 2017, so that's an issue. However, the court is aware that as an expert computer engineer, Wright has the technical abilities to alter metadata. So obviously, they suspect now that that's also been altered because the rest of his other documents were forged. Craig Wright's argument and Craig Wright's case should be completely thrown out of court because it has been figured out that he has been forging documents. He cannot move the Bitcoin, he cannot move the Satoshi wallet coins, and he has zero actual evidence that hasn't been forged. The trial is scheduled to run until mid-March, and of course we're waiting for the conclusion. I think we already know what the conclusion actually is. And of course, like, you know, when you forge documents like this in a court, it should be a criminal matter, and he should actually be in jail. And also, he basically underwrote his own expert witnesses. So like the judge actually said, Dr. Wright, Just let me interrupt for a moment. One of the advantages of having independent expert witnesses is if the court agrees that they have given an objective, suitably supported opinion, the court can rely on their opinions, so I suggest you focus on their opinions. Because at the moment, unless they're completely undermined, which is exactly what Craig Wright's doing to his own expert witnesses, it is likely I'm going to rely on them, okay? So instead of disputing the process by which he reached these findings, I suggest you focus on the findings. CSW did not respond. Of course, like, he basically has no way to refute anything. I mean, his credibility is basically at zero right now to both the judges and the jury. And that's because, like, when you forge a bunch of documents and then try to direct the blame on someone else, and your credibility essentially goes to zero in a court of law, like it should. So Craig Wright, not doing too well. And of course, I think a lot of BSV is writing on that Craig Wright is actually Satoshi Nakamoto and Bitcoin SV is the original Bitcoin. But based on the trial today and the forged documents and the fake evidence, and now that the jury actually even suspects that, like, the Tulip Fund documents are fake evidence, and also, like, the documents that he presented, the 2008 document, they suspect that's fake evidence as well. So things not going well for Craig Wright as his fraud has been exposed to for the world to see. So Craig Wright going down, and I think BSV may just go down with it. And you know what I say? Good freaking riddance. It's a scam in the first place, and it should actually die along with CSW and his fraudulent claims of being Satoshi Nakamoto. In other good news today, the Treasury Department itself, and Janet Yellen seems to have done a 180 on cryptocurrency, maybe because she bought some Bitcoin. I really don't know if that's true or not. I'm just making that up. But basically, like, they did a detailed report saying that crypto actually isn't used that much in money laundering. In fact, it's only a tiny portion of what USD is actually used to in money laundering. And I think this blows Elizabeth Warren's kind of like quest to destroy crypto apart because it was being used for money laundering and terrorist financing. The Treasury itself has said that money laundering is far below cash. And this was a detailed report, and that cash remains king for criminals looking to launder illicit funds. Obviously, there's more ways than cryptos and cash to launder funds, and criminals find all sorts of ways. But this whole, like, report that the crypto is only being used mainly for terrorist financing has been blown apart by the Treasury itself. So Gary Gensler and Elizabeth Warren are going to have to find another excuse soon. So cash, not cryptocurrencies, remains the go-to money laundering method for criminals and organizations. 3 separate reports by the Treasury itself delving into money laundering, terrorist financing, and proliferation financing unpacked the current landscape in which criminal organizations acquire, launder, and move funds locally and abroad. And the criminals use cash-based money laundering strategies in significant part because cash offers them to be anonymous. And if we know that Bitcoin is indeed not anonymous. Bitcoin transactions can be tracked. Now, I won't say much for Monero transactions. I do actually think Monero is used for that stuff. But exchanges have been very compliant with officials in basically deplatforming or removing on-ramps to Monero. So I don't know how much argument they have there. And plus Monero's volume is pretty low, so they can't really use it to traffic all that much money. The report highlights that bulk cash smuggling involving the transport of US dollar banknotes remains a popular method to launder illicit proceeds inside and outside the country. Cash is typically transported across borders and deposited into foreign accounts. And of course, they're saying like the use of aircraft to basically like transport dollar bills is more common than transferring crypto because crypto can actually be tracked. I definitely think this blows all the arguments out of the water because you can actually catch crypto money laundering much, much easier than cash money laundering. It's very, very hard to trace bills, much easier to trace electronic transactions on a non-private blockchain like Bitcoin. So, they mention DeFi and cryptos, but they don't really have that much evidence that they're actually being used for money laundering. They label DeFi as an emergent means for transferring and laundering illicit funds, but with the on-ramps and off-ramps quickly being shut off, even that's coming into question. And of course, they're really hitting on crypto mixing services. But The thing is, like, their main argument that like crypto's this huge giant money laundering operation has basically been flattened out by these reports by the Treasury. And I think that's probably why, one of the reasons why Janet Yellen kind of did a 180 on the crypto market and saying they're not securities. And even though she wants more authority to handle crypto money laundering, the Treasury does actually realize that crypto is not the main source of money laundering and illicit funds. So that's the news for today. Let me know what you think. Like and subscribe, hit that bell notifications button. Thank you and have a nice day.